Heather at Umi Nami Farm. It is June 7th, 2025, and we are 2 weeks from the solstice and totally feeling like summer. Today I'll talk a bit about some of our seedling production. I'll talk about summer fruiting crops and also our container growing experiment. So, starting with seedlings, it is very hot in the seedling greenhouse right now, too hot, so we're shifting a lot of our seedling production outside. Now, some of these things are destined for outdoor planting anyways. For example, here we have the last of our kabocha squash and some delicata. These are all what they call winter squashes, i.e. ones that we can store and sell in the winter box program. These guys are really important for us because in the winter, when there's not a lot besides greens, these are really what helps fill out the box program. But the time when we have to do the work to plant them is now. This past week has just been a boatload of work trying to get, here we have 5 trays. There was like 20 trays of seedlings we had to transplant, all that had to have plastic mulch, all that had to have floating row cover on them to protect them from the wind. A big job. That part's done. And these guys. Now, I made a mistake, I just realized. I said these were going outdoors. These are actually going into a weedy greenhouse because squash is actually a really good use of weedy space. We always put down a lot of landscape fabric to keep the fruits clean, and at the same time, that really keeps the weeds down. So these guys will help us make good use of a weedy greenhouse space. What else do we have here? We have some peas that, incidentally, are also destined for back in the greenhouse, in this case for seed sating. That helps them stay isolated from others that they could cross-pollinate with. We've been having trouble sourcing good snow pea seeds, at least organic ones, in the last few years, so we've decided to try just producing our own. So these are some snow peas we're going to use for seed production. What else do we have here? We have some green onions. Germination's not great. This is a problem we need to solve someday. Under this one here, I've got some lettuce. Now, with seedling production shifting outdoors, we do have to be more mindful about certain kinds of pests. In the case of the lettuce, we find there's lots of little birds that like salad just as much as we do and are more than happy to come and clean out a whole tray of lettuce seedlings. So the net frame helps protect them from that. Hopefully today or in the next couple of days, I'll be bringing the cauliflower seedlings from the seedling greenhouse outdoors where they'll have a more comfortable temperature. They also will get the net frame, partly due to birds, partly due to those little white cabbage butterflies that will, again, be more than happy to lay their eggs and eat up all the seedlings. So, I think that's everything I wanted to say about seedlings for now. Let's go take a look at some of the fruiting crops. So, at least some of the summer fruiting crops are here. We're actually starting to have a nice amount of zucchinis. This one will be ready for harvest in another couple of days. We've actually been sending some of these to the Sea Bluff Farm stand. And so if you're not in the box program, you could go check out there. We are also starting to get a little bit of cucumbers. These guys have just started as of a couple days ago was our first harvest. And I actually just noticed one that I missed this morning right here. There we go. It's got a bit of a twist to it, but that's a really nice size. This is really exciting. We're still only getting like a couple handfuls per day, so it's going to be a while before they're in Fujiao or anywhere like that. But in the meantime, the plants are looking really nice and healthy. There's hope. What we did this year is to avoid having problems where you've got seedlings ready to go and the space isn't available, we really tried to pair our seedling production with the soil preparation. And since this spring was really wet, soil preparation was delayed, and so we also delayed our seedlings. So this is actually the first batch of cucumbers. Just so in total, these 2 short rows here are 18 meters worth of plants. Behind Jim, our cameraman here, you can actually see our next batch of cucumbers, which have not quite started to produce yet, but they're looking really nice and healthy. So hopefully it will not be long before we have a lot more cucumbers available. But let's go take a look at some of the eggplants too. There's wasps that like to make their nests in the corners of the door. You have to be really careful opening doors in the summertime. So I'm going to press this open and stand back. All right. Are they going to come out? Okay, I think we're fine. We're fine. I think we can just go. I've gotten stung more than once this way, so. I find they're not as aggressive at this time of year, though they're more aggressive in the later part of the summer. All right, here we go. This is one of 3 locations where we have eggplants. I know in this farm, we're always trying to balance the advantages of diversity and the advantages of standardization. So for eggplants, we have a few different varieties we grow. This year I decided to try to have a bit of standardization where this greenhouse is all one variety, another greenhouse is all another variety, and then the leftover seedlings, which were a mix of varieties, went into a different greenhouse. I'll show you in a minute that has just, a bunch of different stuff. But these guys here, what do we have? You can kind of see, if you look, they've already got several flowers on them. Do we have any fruits yet? Like down here, there we go. Look at that. That is one of our first eggplants. So I don't anticipate harvesting that for another couple weeks. But they're coming. There's hope. And while we're at it, I'll just say, I think one of my favorite things about these varieties is just how the calyx itself is also purple. Not all eggplant varieties have that. I mean, the green ones are nice too, but I really like these dark purple ones personally. So we're on our way to see the container growing experiment, but first I wanted to stop in real quick and look at the onions. These guys are just starting to bulb up now, which is really exciting. These are our mild onion varieties that we get from Japan. Seeing these, I'm thinking about, summer grilling onions on the barbecue, or, nice onions for potato salads and things like this. One thing that I wanted to comment on, though, while we're here, is that in our work, we really need to be mindful of what stage at which the crops need what amount of water. Right now, these guys are fattening up. And I say fattening up, but actually it's not fat. It's water that their cells are filling with. And so right now is a time when we really need to make sure they're getting enough water that they can put that into those cells and get big. Similarly, when crops like cucumber or squash start to produce fruit, again, they need water to be able to fill those fruits out. With the potatoes, which are also growing right now, at the stage when they start to flower, that's an indicator that they're forming their tubers. Again, that tuber represents a lot of water. We need to make sure they have enough water in the soil. In the case of carrots, it might be something more like when the seeds are germinating, you need to have water at the surface so that those little tiny seeds near the surface of the soil can get enough moisture to germinate. But then once they get to the point where they have 5 of their adult-sized leaves, then you want to make sure the water's more at the depth so that that root can form nice and big and long, versus only becoming big near the surface of the soil, which can happen with carrots if you're not careful. If it's always just surface moisture, you can get a root that forms mostly at the surface and doesn't actually go deep. So there's lots of different details, but for each crop, we need to be aware of that stage at which they need more or less irrigation, basically. So this is our container growing experiment. The reason we started this project is because back in the winter, this place was a swamp. You would literally be walking through at least an inch of water. So there's no growing winter crops here. Then the soil doesn't really dry out until May or maybe June, maybe May. It's pretty dry now. But when it does dry out, what we found in past years is it dries so hard that you can't till it, and it's very hard to get a good crop. So what we decided to try to do was to collect wooden pallets and stack them 3 or 4 layers high, usually 3 layers high. And then we've also been collecting these, what do you call these, plastic buckets from local restaurants and things like this, and drilling drainage holes in the bottom. We've then filled them with a mixture of compost and whatever potting mix we had left over and this kind of a thing. And we've actually been getting some pretty decent crops. This kale crop is one that we planted this spring, but we actually had Swiss chard in here during the winter. these guys are actually doing so well that I had to change the crop plan. We were planning to put our hot peppers in here because we had good results with our hot peppers in containers last summer. But these guys are doing so well, I don't think I should take them out in order to put the hot peppers in. So the hot peppers will go somewhere else. And then in the meantime, this black kale actually really likes the heat, and so I think we'll just try to keep these ones going. So this front half of the greenhouse here is being used for actual farm production. But the other half of the greenhouse, we're actually using it for various not-for-profit projects. Let's go take a look. So I might or might not have mentioned last year how we got connected with a small local food bank. We also got connected with some students from Pearson College who were interested in volunteering to either harvest unwanted vegetables or grow vegetables specifically for food bank use. And so over the past spring, they've been coming every week, drilling holes in the buckets, lugging compost. Jim, who's behind the camera, has been helping with that as well. They started a bunch of seedlings, and we transplanted them into the pots as well. Here we have some bulb onions. This is more of a storage onion type versus the sweet onions I showed you earlier. We're trying some celery. We'll see how that goes. I've found celery hard to grow in the past, but it's worth a shot. We had 60 odd cabbages here. Those all just finished going to the food bank in the last couple of weeks. And the Chosen Farm nearby kindly donated some tomato seedlings for the project, and so those have now been transplanted where the cabbages used to be. One of the really beautiful things that happened is I had a week that we weren't able, because of some logistics, we weren't able to get the lettuce we grew to our usual food bank connection. And so I tried selling the lettuce at the box program, saying that the proceeds would all be for food bank donations, which we did. But more importantly, because of that, I connected with one of our customers who volunteers with a group called Living Edge that runs market-style food banks in various parts of the Capital Regional District. And so we now have a second food bank connection, which is able to take whatever we can't send to the first food bank. And so through these various partnerships, the students volunteering, now that the students have gone home for the summer, some other customers are volunteering, different people running food bank projects, we've been able actually to send, not a lot, but we've been able to send something to share with people who might not otherwise be able to access fresh produce. And so in the midst of all our busyness trying to run the farm as such, it's been really lovely to see something like this come to be. And it's come to be because of people being willing to be involved and share their time, basically. So we'll see what happens. It's the first year of this project, but I'm really hopeful that the tomatoes will be one of the next crops heading to the food bank, and we'll see what happens from here. Well, thanks for joining us. We're looking forward to this summer season, and hopefully we'll have another update for you again before long. Bye for now.